Hi, Slew members, and welcome to the latest Clubhouse clip. Yeah, I know it's been a while, and I appreciate all of you who have been so patient with us. This patience is going to be very much rewarded. I am Eric Edelman, broadcasting for the first time from Smoky Hollow Studios at Slew HQ. We're over here in Washington Depot, Connecticut. We've moved our production studio to a great place where you just have to look up to see the stars. And we're here to bring some more stars to you here tonight. And I am joined by Will Gator, our Slew astronomer for tonight. Thank you for joining me tonight, Will.
Oh, it's great fun, Eric. I'm really pleased to be here.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really fun night and very much a classic night. We're going to be looking at the full moon, this moon that is really it's not in front of us here right now. This is a sort of a mock-up of where it is in the night sky. So you stargazers, these are the constellations you have to look by to see it. It's one of the more obvious objects in the night sky, though. So I trust everybody's going to be able to find it if they look hard enough. And so we can change from this view in the night sky to our all-sky camera over at the Canary Islands. This is a live image coming up here from the Canary Islands. And so here it is coming up right here. And I I don't know about you, Will, but it seems to me like it's still daytime. Like this is what it looks like to me, and I can't shake
It
that
looks,
feeling.
yeah, it looks a little bit like that. You can do so much by the light of the full moon. I mean, I remember I used to love going walking just by the light of the full moon because it really does look like daytime once your eyes have adapted. But yeah, we are seeing that here in the live pictures from the Canaries. We are seeing it does really look like the whole sky is washed out with light.
Right, right. That giant bright ball, that is the moon. That is something that is really the bane a lot of the times of astronomy, just because it's so bright and it's just covering out everything else that you can see. But when you're looking at it, it's there's a lot to see. So I mean, you can sort of see over by our faces, a little further away from the moon. There are some stars there that are twinkling out. But without further ado, how about we actually go to the full moon, the live image of the moon here tonight. So I'm making that transition right here. And here we
Oh,
are,
look at that.
really up close and personal at the T1, the half-meter scope. This is the image that is being taken live of the full moon right here.
That's beautiful, isn't it?
Absolutely gorgeous.
Really,
Like there's
really
really some
beautiful.
incredibly striking features that you can see just from this up close view. Like anything pop to your mind, Will?
Well, you know, the one thing I think we often, as astronomers, give the full moon a bit of a bad rap, don't we? Because essentially we say, you know, it washes out the sky. We've been complaining, but look at this picture. Look at the extraordinary detail that you can see. And we say that full moon is not the best time to observe the moon because you can't see any of that beautiful relief, that contrast between light and dark when you see the rugged surface obliquely lit by the sun low down. But actually, you can see a lot of other things. There are so many other things to see at the time of full moon. And this image beautifully demonstrates one of them. And that is what we call the ray ejector system. So can you see them, Eric? There are these beautiful, in some cases, twisting lines down there over by Copernicus, which is just sort of bottom left of the screen. And then can you see those streaks going right across the moon? I mean, almost out of picture, actually,
Absolutely.
if you look at them.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing, and yeah, we see it right around the craters particularly, and it's just this explosion across the moon. Well, evidence of it, and it's really great to see. I have another image here that gives us another perspective of it that was taken by a Slew member, Peter, coming up right here. And there it
That's
is, and
beautiful.
it's the inverted moon, and it does show those lines pretty strikingly as well. Just looking at it
Yeah,
here.
so you see that crater down in the bottom, that's crater Tycho, and actually you can trace the ejector from that explosion all the way pretty much across the moon. So if you look, can you see just above center, there's that very smooth sort of light toned sea. That's the Sea of
Mm.
Serenity. And there's a little line actually that you can trace all the way across the Sea of Serenity up to the top of the moon, but you trace it back and it follows in the direction of Tycho. That's somewhere in the region of 1,000, approaching 2,000 kilometers. So you've got to imagine what this explosion that, the crater impact that caused that crater formation, how energetic it must have been to have thrown material right across the moon, because that's what we're seeing. We should say actually what are those light tone regions? We call them ray ejecta, or basically those are the materials that are thrown out in the formation of the crater. So we think that the reason that they stand out is because the underlying materials underneath the lunar surface, they're much lighter in tone and color, and perhaps they haven't been aged as well on the lunar surface, and that's why they appear a lot brighter than some of their surrounding materials. And this image really, it's very strange looking image, but it really does bring out those ray ejector systems. You see, Copernicus looks almost like this sort of weird octopusy thing with these almost wandering tentacles, I think.
It's absolutely amazing. Like to me, it sort of comes to mind a little bit of a crime scene with some of the chalk outlines. Like we're seeing this
Mm.
history of such a severe violence that has happened to this object, and it's really incredible to trace that history through those lines. Really.
Yeah, and this is why the moon is such an important object to look at. I mean, not just because it's beautiful to us amateur astronomers, but the moon records the history of the solar system. So a lot of astronomers, a lot of planetary scientists, you often hear them talking about the moon as like a time capsule because because it doesn't have any atmosphere, it doesn't have the winds or the water or the erosive processes that we do on Earth. It basically records the, as you say, impacting the bombardment that is experienced for pretty much the whole history of the solar system. We're going back billions of years here. And when you look at these pictures, you see that. You see the smooth basalt lava plains, which were long called seas. We call them Maria today, but they themselves are a record of really quite a violent past, as you say.
There's so much history here, and there's really so much to see with the moon. And we were talking earlier about this interesting phenomenon that happens when the moon is rising. I think I have an image here of yours, Will, of the
Ah,
moon
yeah.
as it's rising above the horizon, and it looks so very distinctly red. It's something
Yeah.
that it happens. There's the red moon there, and it's a very interesting thing to see. And so, why exactly does this moon become so red at this particular time?
Well, we talk about the silvery moon, don't we? But actually, as you say, this image it shows a very deep red moon, and this is not a lunar eclipse. There's no eclipse happening here. What's actually happening is something very special, and something happens that actually every day. And what's actually happening is that our atmosphere is scattering blue light. Now, that's the reason why our skies are blue. The nitrogen molecules in the atmosphere, they're very, very good at scattering the bluer wavelengths of light. Well, how does that play into the moonrise thing? Well, if you imagine when the moon is very low on the horizon, that moonlight is having to go through a much longer section of the Earth's atmosphere than if it was much higher in the sky. And so what's essentially happening is that section of the atmosphere is basically filtering out all the bluer wavelengths of light. And what reaches us is predominantly the redder wavelengths. And so we see this gorgeous sort of scarlet, coppery, red moon rising. And you can see it, full moon is a perfect time to see it because it's bright, and often just as the sun is setting, the full moon is rising low there on the horizon. It looks these extraordinary colors. So that's what's happening. It's the same reason that our sky is blue, the same process is causing the moon to look red when we look at it at this time of the lunar
And
cycle.
it was interesting that you brought up around the beginning of your explanation that this isn't a lunar eclipse, but lunar eclipses, there's a very similar sort of look that happens to the moon. Like I have here an image from one of our older lunar eclipse shows where it's showing the moon, which it looks like it's very similarly red to what we were
Yeah.
seeing when the moon was rising. But I mean, it's not because it's rising; it's because it's eclipsing. So, I mean, what is sort of the similarity? What's the relationship that's happening there between these two phenomena?
Yeah, so the amazing thing is actually the same physical process as essentially creating that red light, except what's happening is the red light is going through our atmosphere and back out into space in the direction of Earth's shadow. So what's happening is as the light from the sun passes through the Earth's atmosphere, all that blue light is being filtered out. Essentially, we see the sunsets and the blue sky. But that sunlight is now sort of missing, if you like, a lot of the bluer wavelengths of light. And so what travels out into the shadow and what's bent and refracted around the Earth is the predominantly redder wavelengths. And so when the moon passes into the shadow of the Earth, what it's illuminated by is this predominantly red light. And
Hmm.
that's why the colors are the same. It's the same light essentially. It's just traveled through the atmosphere and gone out the other
Mm.
side in the direction of the moon. And you can see that, the colors are very, very similar.
It's really astounding, and it's this subtle geometry that's happening with both of these happenings. It's really very interesting. And I
Mm.
have here actually another interesting picture from one of our clubhouse members in terms of just interpretation of this moon and what this moon means to people. This is from one of our slew members, Christina, who has seen I know a lot of people hear about the old man in the moon, and here is the dinosaur in the moon. He's playing with a soccer ball, and there's so much to really uh, well, to tell a story about the moon in terms of what people view when they see it. And there's also when somebody saw this picture by Christina, there was a fellow slew member that made a very amazing rendition of this creature, which we see here, which is the
That's
dinosaur playing
amazing.
soccer on the moon. This is by Jorge, a slew member, and it's just so fun to see what people do with the moon and what they see and what they view from this dynamic object.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the full moon, the moon itself, has always inspired cultures all throughout history. I mean, you think of the huge impact that it must have had on the development of civilizations, agriculture, all these sorts of things. And so it's natural and wonderful to see that even today, our human curiosity can make these shapes in something that we know very intimately scientifically. But still, when you see that full moon rising, when you see that extraordinary view of a low moon on the horizon, especially a full moon, it is something that inspires the imagination. And I always feel sort of get a boost of creativity when I've had an incredible view just like that.
So, speaking of viewing the moon, do you maybe have some tips for our, people with cameras out there who might want to uh, try and take a picture of the full moon? Are there good ways to go about that?
Yeah, I mean, there are all sorts of different ways you can do it. If you just have, say, a bridge camera or maybe a basic DSLR, it's a digital single lens reflex camera, then you can just set it up on a tripod or carefully lean it on something and make sure it's secure and try and snap a couple of pictures, maybe of a landscape shot. Because often the full moon rise is really beautiful if it's accompanied by some landscape. You really get a sense of the scale, and often the full moon rise is embedded in the sort of twilight colors. The sort of shadow of the Earth is a deep grayish blue, and then what we call the belt of Venus, which is this beautiful pink band above it. So there are all sorts of very picturesque views that you can get with very, very simple equipment, in fact. But of course, if you have a telephoto lens or maybe a small telescope, you can attach the camera to the telescope, even basically hold the camera up to the eyepiece of a telescope and get a view. So have a go, experiment. If you've got one of these point and shoot cameras, or even, and I will say this, I've had great success doing it, something like a smartphone. Hold the
Mm.
smartphone up to the eyepiece of your telescope, even a pair of binoculars at the full moon, and it's so bright, you get it to focus on it, you'll get a fantastic picture, and you'd be amazed at what you can get with really very simple equipment, and often with equipment, that you or I just have to hand.
Wow, I didn't think about that with the smartphone. I actually might have to try that with my own smartphone tonight. That could be a
Yeah,
fun
do. It's
experiment.
it's really good. I mean, smartphones nowadays, they've got really good cameras on them, so you can get some really nice pictures.
Yeah, I think I'll challenge myself. And for those of the people that have that equipment with them, that's great. Yeah, you can challenge yourself with that. And we also have as well available since you are Slew members. There's stuff that you can do on Slew as well. And so, to give you a little bit of a idea of what there is in the clubhouse in terms of moons that you can do, I thought I would give you a little tour. Like, I'm just going to search up in the search bar right here, moon activities. What's around here? So the first thing that comes up is exploration and collection activities. So you can think about it. Here's some different moon activities that somebody can do, and one of them is like collecting moon phase images. So as the moon changes phase, get in terms of through different observations throughout the month with the telescopes. The moon as it changes this phase, and have it as a collection for you as a SLU member in your pictures. That's something that you're welcome to do, and we challenge you to challenge yourself to get different collections of objects, the moon being one of them. There can also be galaxies, comets, lots of different things for SLU members to collect. And so yeah, there's a lot of different things to do with relation to the moon. And I also wanted to tell you a little bit about some of the exciting shows that are going to be coming up, because this is going to be a crazy month in terms of just how much content is going to be available. Just scrolling down here a little bit, we have our next public show being tomorrow morning for people on the Pacific Coast. On the East Coast, it's the afternoon. More in Europe, it's going to be an evening show of Dawn arriving for Ceres. And this is going to be a really exciting show. I actually can give you some breaking news on this. Is that we are going to be having an interview with a really exciting new guest as well. It's going to be at the end of this show, at the end of the Dawn show. And so look forward to that tomorrow. And we also, of course, I'm sure a lot of people are looking forward to this, have our total solar eclipse show that's going to be happening on March 20th. But it's not just going to be happening on March 20th for SLU members. This is going to be a whole huge expedition. Our SLU engineer, our observatory engineer, Paul Cox, is going to be going on a 7-day journey over to the Faroe Islands, so he can be on one of the few land masses on Earth that can see this entire eclipse, can see the eclipse at totality. It's going to be an incredible journey, and you as a SLU member can follow along with him on this journey in the clubhouse. There's going to be content that is going to be updated every day. There's going to be a lot of clubhouse clips of him as he's going through this journey, so you can ride right along with him as he heads towards this total solar eclipse. It is going to be so much fun. There's going to be so much to do here, and a lot of it exclusively for you. So I hope you look forward to that, and you join us coming along for that ride. But yeah, there's a lot of fun things coming up, and it's been a fun night tonight as well. Thanks a lot, Will, for joining me as we've gazed here at the moon. I thought that was a fun way to start up our production again, as we're moving to this new place and we have more exciting things to come just around the bend. So thank you
I
again.
think so. It's gonna be a great week. I'm really looking forward to it.
Absolutely. And yeah, thank you to you SLU members that are watching this show. We do these for you. And as always, you can give us suggestions for what you'd like to see us do Clubhouse clips around. Just let us know in the Clubhouse clips category, and we'll definitely see what we can do on that end. And thank you for watching this show. And I hope you're having a great great evening, great morning here at SLU. And we hope to see you next time. Please stay tuned. Hi, Slew members, and welcome to the latest Clubhouse clip. Yeah, I know it's been a while, and I appreciate all of you who have been so patient with us. This patience is going to be very much rewarded. I am Eric Edelman, broadcasting for the first time from Smoky Hollow Studios at Slew HQ. We're over here in Washington Depot, Connecticut. We've moved our production studio to a great place where you just have to look up to see the stars. And we're here to bring some more stars to you here tonight. And I am joined by Will Gator, our Slew astronomer for tonight. Thank you for joining me tonight, Will.
Oh, it's great fun, Eric. I'm really pleased to be here.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really fun night and very much a classic night. We're going to be looking at the full moon, this moon that is really it's not in front of us here right now. This is a sort of a mock-up of where it is in the night sky. So you stargazers, these are the constellations you have to look by to see it. It's one of the more obvious objects in the night sky, though. So I trust everybody's going to be able to find it if they look hard enough. And so we can change from this view in the night sky to our all-sky camera over at the Canary Islands. This is a live image coming up here from the Canary Islands. And so here it is coming up right here. And I I don't know about you, Will, but it seems to me like it's still daytime. Like this is what it looks like to me, and I can't shake
It
that
looks,
feeling.
yeah, it looks a little bit like that. You can do so much by the light of the full moon. I mean, I remember I used to love going walking just by the light of the full moon because it really does look like daytime once your eyes are adapted. But yeah, we are seeing that here.